As a business owner, we are faced with countless difficult decisions that need to be made with uncertainty. And because of that uncertainty, we confront fear, risk, and potential conflict. Now, I recently had an example of this within my business, and I want to share that with you in a moment. But before I do so, I would love for you to do one thing for me. Can you please subscribe to our YouTube channel? I promise you that I'm going to deliver incredible content, and in return, I just ask for that one small favor. So let's dive into it. So this scenario was with one of our coaching clients, and he was a really adored, loved, and respected member within our community. Now, he had a desire and he's got the talent to become a coach. And we certainly earmarked him to becoming a coach as well. And then an opportunity came up to really enter the coaching space and begin his coaching career. However, it wasn't with our company. Instead, it was with one of our competitors. And so I had a decision that I needed to make under uncertainty. It was a very difficult one because there were pros and cons on both sides on what we needed to do in this particular situation with this particular member. And I'm going to be sharing with you how I arrived at my decision through the following framework. I'm going to be sharing 5 steps within this framework that will make it easier for you to make decisions that are difficult, that are uncertain, and where there is risk involved. This has been helpful for me, not only within this scenario, but on countless occasions within my business. And I have no doubt it will also serve you well. So let's dive into the 5 steps within this framework. Now, the reason a framework like the one I'm about to share with you is so important is because we don't have someone telling us what we should do. As much as we would like it, quite often we as leaders need to make these decisions under uncertainty. So the first step is to identify your alternatives, because there is no doubt that you have a certain bias or you may react emotionally in a specific way. That's why you need to take a step back. You need to have a 30,000-foot view of the scenario, of the situation itself. Identify what are all the alternative choices. Now, something I find very, very helpful within this stage is actually getting a trusted advisor, maybe it's a colleague, involved in the process. Because otherwise you'll just go back to your default way of thinking. Decision trees are very helpful here, but really what is most helpful is the frame that you need to adopt. It's not what should I do, but what could I do? So going back to my scenario, well, I needed to identify the different alternatives. Do I keep this, a really amazing guy within our community, even though he's going to be coaching at one of our competitors? Do I let him go and say, best of luck and farewell? Or do we trial him staying within our community and leave it open to review? They were some of the alternatives that I needed to consider. So that's step number 1 in the decision-making process. You need to identify all alternatives. Put everything on the table. Step number 2 is you need to understand the consequences of each one of those alternatives in the real world. Now, a very simple practice here is to simply list the pros and cons. So for example, a pro of keeping this colleague within our community would have been the energy, the intelligence, the enthusiasm that he brought. But a con could be just a conflict of interest because he's going to be advocating the company that he's working with, yet he's going to be in our community interacting with our coaching clients. So you need to have a very simple list that has pros on one side and cons on the other side for every alternative. The third part in this very simple framework is you need to assess your obligations. Now, you will have personal obligations to your family in particular, and you'll have professional obligations. Now, these will be to your customers, suppliers, and other stakeholders. And so what you need to do is you need to put yourself in their shoes. How would they feel if this particular alternative played out? And are you upholding your obligations to those relevant stakeholders? So again, in my example, I needed to put myself in my customer's shoes. And would that create confusion and uncertainty for them that they were a colleague of someone who was a coach in another coaching program? Of course it would. So this was helpful in helping me make that decision. The fourth step in our framework is asking yourself, does this decision align with my goals, my vision, and my values? Now, quite often in the past, I've started here. However, by doing so, I haven't looked from an outside perspective at the decision and the business itself. And so that's why I've purposely placed it number 4. But this creates a great lens to measure the decision against. And number 5 in our framework is that you need to embrace uncertain decision making. There's no doubt in business you're going to be confronted many times with difficult decisions that require a prompt response rather than freezing or procrastination. And the more times you embrace difficult decision making, the better your skill set is going to become. And that skill set will serve you very well in uncertain or difficult times within business itself. But there are 2 things that you must do. Number 1, you need to commit to the decision wholeheartedly. And number 2, you must live with the consequences. So let's go back to my scenario. I had to make a difficult decision. I've committed to that decision, and I will deal with the consequences itself. But going through this framework enabled me to feel a lot more confident and at peace with the decision itself. Decision making under uncertainty is a valuable tool for self-improvement, particularly if you follow the framework that we've gone through in this video. So let's just do a quick recap. Number 1, we need to understand and assess the alternatives. Number 2, we need to look at the consequences of each one of those alternatives. Number 3, we need to consider our obligations. Number 4, we need to see if it aligned with our goals, our vision, our values. And lastly, we need to embrace and live with this uncertainty. If you do so, you are setting yourself up to be really successful in business, particularly during uncertain times. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you.